Lincoln, Nebraska. It's just organized. How players come out and warm up, how they navigate pre-practice. The offensive lineman, the defensive lineman, there's no wasted movement. Everything was competitive, extremely competitive. Anthony Calandria, ton of juice. The decisiveness, the athleticism, the accuracy he has with his arm, and the ability to get the ball out. Defensively, it's a totally different staff, different scheme. Known guys on this staff for a decent amount of time, what they said, how they said it, how they taught, with the intensity and the physicality. It was really impressive. I'm not ready to put anything in pen, but I will say this about Nebraska. Welcome back, or welcome to Y Option. I'm your host, Yogi Roth, and we are in spring ball. Some of you are on spring break, and I'm fired up to come to you today. Every one of our conversations are presented by our founding sponsor, 76, keeping you on the go so you never miss a beat. And spring football, it's got me smiling. It's got me drinking good coffee. It's got me knee-deep in college football. And it took me to Lincoln, Nebraska. It was awesome. First time I actually flew roundabout way into Lincoln. Quick drive, airport, practice, hotel, and away we went and came on back here. Now, it was really fun. I want to kind of take you through a couple of my observations from Lincoln. First and foremost, I'm a huge Matt Rhule fan. Who he is, what he's about, what his core is, what his philosophy is, and how connected and committed he is to that. And I know Nebraska fans, you're anticipating with tremendous excitement for this season. It's an amazing fan base. I've called a couple games in that stadium. I cannot wait to get back. So, speaking of getting back, fired up. NBC sending me around to a couple different spring practices. Going to have a bunch more here in April, but I got 2 thus far. So I wanted to give you a recap right here on Y Option, my thoughts from Lincoln. Just kind of take you into how I do it when I get to campus and how you really get to prepare in advance of that. I like building out like a little depth chart for myself, like something where I can, as a broadcaster, kind of write out my note. It's on a little cardboard, so it's a little strong offense, defense. You can flip it around. You going back and forth in practice, watching different drills. Something to kind of give you a lay of the land. What bodies are on the defensive line? What wideouts are in that group? Who's competing on the offensive front? What's the depth chart like at different position groups? And it, to me, organizes my mind so then I can get into the season or into the preseason, and I already have a rough estimation of who is who, how they move, how they play, and then most importantly, really how they grow. And I think it's important to note that recording this here in mid-March, and the season's a long ways away. So the growth and development of so many new faces there, new schemes there, is going to be tremendous between now and the time we eventually get into training camp, and of course, when they kick things off once the season gets rolling in Lincoln. Okay, a couple of my big takeaways. Let's just start at the top. I'm a huge fan of getting to practice, watching how guys approach practice when they get out there. The media is allowed to come to the early portion of this practice, so I'll share with what everybody saw there. It's just organized. And I say that because I think it's a critical component. How players come out and warm up, how they navigate pre-practice, and watching the quarterback position, the offensive lineman, the defensive lineman, there's no wasted movement. And I think that's a huge component to finding success. It can be fun. It's, of course, one of the best relationship-based sports in the history of planet Earth, but also you got to be dialed. And I think this team, I felt that. I felt a team that felt really mission-minded here about midway through spring ball. They've got the first spring game in the Big Ten coming up at the end of the month. So let's start with that. Also, the energy that practice started with. It reminded me of back in the day when I was at USC. I say that because I know the book Win Forever, I was fortunate enough to co-author with Pete Carroll, has had a big influence on Matt Rhule and this program. You're watching them kick off the party with bag drills. Like, that's exactly how practice used to start 20 years ago. I'm not sure if that's exactly why they do it, but the point is bag drills is up and down, high knees, in and out of these bags, but you get your body moving. It's exactly what I saw early on from Nebraska. And there was a 3-hour practice. I mean, this team was not playing around, and everything was competitive. So, takeaway number 2, every drill mattered, whether it was wideouts, runner routes, whether it was stock blocking on the side, of course, 9-on-7, 7-on, team run, you name it. It was extremely competitive. And I think that was a huge takeaway that I had. Why do I note that? Everybody says that. What is the point of having such competitive periods and such competitive practices? Well, you take the focus off the outcome. You take the focus off of what happens at the end of the game, who we have even in a regular season game week. You don't worry about Saturday. You're so hyper-focused on Competition Tuesday, on that specific drill. And to me, this is a team, we all know they had a huge star in Dylan Raiola there. The team doesn't really have that, at least in my estimation right now. Nobody definitely as big or as well known as Dylan was. It feels as though, and this is a theme, I think, a little bit in the Big Ten with some of the departures. I look at this program right now, and I saw a team just getting after it. So let's just start there. So let's go to the offensive side. Anthony Calandria. He's the former Mountain West Player of the Year from last year at UNLV. Over 30 starts in his career, kicked the party off in his career at Virginia. He's got a ton of juice. It's easy to see that. He's a dynamic athlete. I think that he's going to be able to operate Dana Holgerson's system at an elite level. I think he's probably the best fit for that system, especially when you look at the athleticism that he has. Go back and watch him on tape last year at UNLV, watch him a little bit in practice. He's got a ton of juice to him. Also, he's got what I often coin as the it factor. Okay, what is that? It's the most overused and undefinable phrase you can argue in all of college football. The way I define it is that it's somebody who walks into the room and you feel their presence and you make them better. And I just saw that in practice. I get it. It was just a 3-hour snapshot of me being at practice for a day. But watching him navigate drill to drill to drill, and I know he's not been named the starter, but that is what stood out to me. The decisiveness, the athleticism, the explosive ability that he has with his legs, the accuracy he has with his arm, and the ability to get the ball out. That stood out. And I think call it an air raid system. You heard me talk about the air raid. If you want more on that, just go back to an older episode here at Y Option on like the core theory behind this offense. It's not just 7 concepts or 12 concepts or whatever I think sometimes is out there. It's a mindset. It's a philosophy much more than it is a scheme. You got to have the ability and the willing to rip it. I have a note at the bottom of my call sheet. It says air raid. You must have an attitude as a play caller. And as a quarterback, you must have the capacity for boredom. That's a Hal Mummy line. I see all that in that quarterback room. Staying in that room, TJ Lateef, I just love his growth. He's in his second year. He did some impressive things last year, also a big learning curve. He looked like a different player. And then one of my favorite stories in the Big Ten this year is Danny Kaelin coming back. This is a guy who signed with Nebraska out of Omaha in high school. Him and Dylan were the same year. Obviously, didn't see playing time, goes to Virginia, gets some playing time, then comes on back home. And this dude looks like an adult. I mean, all of 6'3", 220, probably a little thicker than that. So just like that room. Running back room, a bunch of depth there. Tight end room, fan of it. The receiver room is one I want to focus on because I think it's going to fly under the radar in the Big Ten. There's a lot of talented wideouts in the Big Ten. We know whether it's here in LA, at USC, whether it's in Columbus. There's a lot of Indiana. There's a lot of talented skill players in this league. Quasi Gelmer transfers from UCLA, Corey Barney coming back, Zaya Hunter, the guy who was there last year, transferred from Cal. I mean, they've got a litany of players, and some young guys, some second-year players that to me stood out as well. So overall, fan of the program. Defensively, it's a totally different staff, different scheme. Love to watch just watching the little drills that this defense did in every specific pod. Known guys on this staff for a decent amount of time, most notably Roy Manning. I watched him coach at Washington State, USC, UCLA, a bunch of different places throughout his career. And to watch and listen to him, let alone other coaches in drills, what they said, how they said it, how they taught, with the intensity and the physicality, it was really impressive. And I think I'll end with that. After practice, I had a chance to spend some time with Coach Rhule. I'm excited for this team. I'm excited for the foundation of this team. I don't think it's a reset by any stretch. I think it's the next step within this program. It feels like a really tight unit, a team that's having a blast practicing, competing, training, and also playing within the standard, which we know Nebraska football is. So it's early, it's mid-March, not ready to put anything in pen about any team in college football or in the Big Ten. But I will say this about Nebraska. It felt highly competitive with competitive depth. And I think that's going to be a theme as I make my way around this league. So what happens when it's the top league in America? I just think that every position has that. We'll see who the premium players are. We'll see as the games unfold and the season unfolds who really can shine when starters are named, etc. But I came out of Lincoln, Nebraska, really optimistic about what Matt Rhule is building. As I said off the jump, big fan of him and his overall coaching philosophy and the depth and the pedigree that he has, how he views the game, how he views approaching young men and turning them into real men. Like, just love the way that he does it, and looking forward to continuing to learn and unearth a couple other programs around this great league. All right, there it is. As always, every conversation presented by our founding sponsor, 76, keeping you on the go, go, go so you never miss a beat. take a listen for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
With the Fuel Forward app, the more discounts you stack, the more you save.
Feels good to save. I know, right?
How low can you go?
All right, so that was my deep dive on Nebraska. Coming up, I've got one on USC, and then it's going to be a little spring break for me as well. I'm going to take the family. We're going to go on a little vacation. We're going to Japan. Never been to Japan. If you've been there, let me know. Give us some tidbits in the comment section. Let us know, or hit us back on the newsletter. If you're not subscribing to the newsletter, please do, yoption.com. Try to be thoughtful and insightful around college football. We'll talk about key position battles. Of course, I'll talk about the quarterback position within this league. We get the NFL draft coming up, so a lot happening. We're going to go on the road. I'm going to head to the Midwest here in early April. We're going to stay out here on the West Coast. We're going to be bouncing around over the course of April, but why not? It's the draft, it's spring football. It gives us a little bit of taste of what college football is. And then before you know it, the season will be here. So I hope you liked a little bit of recap from my trip to Lincoln. Much love to everybody in Nebraska for the insight, the access, just the ability to kind of get under the hood a little bit and watch this program compete. As I said off the top, and I'll say it again, the foundation is strong. I understand Matt Rhule's been there for a couple years. Well, I walked away from a highly competitive environment that seems extremely mission-minded. All right, stay safe, everybody. Peace.